Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Kasey Shienvold, and welcome to MFSN's The Hub, our first fantasy and NFL football show. I'm really excited to bring you this here at MFSN. We strive to bring you the most important and most relevant fantasy football information. I'm joined today by two of the most knowledgeable and entertaining sports personalities out there. First of all, Rich Davis of SiriusXM and the excellent podcast Davino and Rich on Patreon. And as always, the meek, mild, and soft-spoken Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy football and NFL football with you, Cowboy. I'm excited. You're excited. You're excited. The season's starting, preseason starting this week. Rich and I are betting our houses on everything right now, so it's going to be a great year. We're excited.
Yeah, it is exciting.
I love your enthusiasm, Ross. Honestly, your enthusiasm, I'm excited already. I'm excited for the football season because of you. That intro right there, enough. Got me pumped up.
We try to get Rich, we try to get Ross to be a little bit more excitable, but he always brings his mellow attitude. It's hard to work with. But first things first, Ross, I know you're a big fan of Hard Knocks. It started this week. We've all been watching it. It's on HBO. Why don't you tell me your first thoughts?
So let me give you my disappointment thoughts first. So on Hard Knocks, they always show like the rookies coming into the hotel, checking in, going to their suite where they have to share with somebody else. That didn't happen this year. It was all about Dak Prescott showing his wishbone surgery with the scars. He called it a wishbone. I didn't make that up, but he did. They showed Zeke Elliott. They're best friends. I guess Zeke doesn't know how to wrap gifts. He had to go to YouTube video to watch how to wrap gifts for his best friend, Dak Prescott. We also learned that the owner of the team, Jerry Jones, he eats McGriddles, but he just doesn't eat the McGriddle. He puts probably a lot of, not a little salt, not a lot of salt, tons of salt on it first before he eats this McGriddle. And this guy, I always thought, he's always been like this young guy, not young, but he's older guy that I thought was in shape, that cared about what he ate. Obviously, Ross the Boss is wrong on that one. Eating McGriddle. And the things I loved about the show, I loved the whole Austin Powers thing with the mojo. They watched the clip of that, then they imitated it back at practice. I love that. I loved seeing the synergy between Zeke and Dak. But overall, I was just a little disappointed they didn't focus on like the guy that's trying to make the team. I like that. I like rooting for the underdog, as Ross the Boss knows.
Yeah,
I think I like Jerry Jones' dietary process here. Think about this: you hit a certain age, right? Like you go to your cabinet, you want to eat bad snacks, you want to get Taco Bell at 2 a.m, you want to do all these things, but you say, "Nah, I got to be good." I think there's an age you got to pick where you're like, from this age on, I don't give a crap. I'm going to do what I want. And maybe Jerry Jones is like, you know what? I'm an old guy. I'm going to have McGriddles, I'm going to have salt, syrup. I'm going to do everything. I feel like that's what I'm going to do. I told my wife, I think, God willing, I make it to 80 on is all bonus years. I feel like I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want.
Makes sense.
You'll be a Tommy Burgers. You'll be eating Fat Burger. It doesn't matter. But just to have this guy eating McGriddle on national television, he couldn't wait till the cameras were off to eat the McGriddle and put salt on it like he did. I just don't think it's a good example for the rest of America to see.
Jerry Jones is the secret. The clean living, I guess, is the secret to his success. But making this fantasy relevant. If you watch that first episode, Dak Prescott then had some either muscle soreness or tightness in his lat or his throwing arm, and all of a sudden they weren't practicing him for the first couple of weeks. Do you think that he's going to be an injury nightmare coming into the season, or do you think it's on
that? I have news. I got news on that. So also in the episode, they talked about how the trainer for the Cowboys called the Texas Rangers baseball trainer about advice about the shoulder. And he also called the Yankees. Shouldn't he call like maybe a trainer that's involved in football or maybe more of an expert when it comes to the shoulder? Why is he calling the trainer of the Rangers? It made no sense, but I know Jerry Jones loved it. But long story short, 3 weeks, they said his arm just needs to rest. His shoulder needs to rest. Everything will be fine. Fantasy owners, don't freak out on me. It's going to be okay for Dak. He'll have a great season. Zeke will have a great season. 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns. It's going to be a great season for Zeke Elliott, guys. So don't.
Let me tell you, Russ, America's team. I just realized that the tie-in. America's team. They got to represent America. And what is America? Bunch of slobs eating McGriddles. So honestly, Jerry Jones is representing America's team. He owns America's team, and he's eating McGriddles like a fatso, like the rest of every American out there. And let me say this. As far as trainers go, I think they should investigate Ross the boss's trainer. You ever see Ross on social media lifting weights with chains attached to it? Ross, they should have reached out and found out who trained you.
I'm trained by a lot of great people, but we'll talk about that later. We're talking about fantasy football right now, Rich. But thanks for bringing that up.
We'll get back to Ross's workout regimen.
But then the big Dak Prescott news: 3 weeks. He'll be in there starting the season. Don't worry, fantasy owners. He probably won't play 1 second of preseason, which is fine. I think that's a good idea. But Dak Prescott, he'll be a top 5 quarterback this year. No worries.
All right, Rich. We all know you're a big San Francisco 49ers fan. What is your position on the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance quarterback drama?
This is great. And first of all, I should have reconsidered doing this show outside with a black shirt on. I'm dying, guys. It's like 100 degrees. I'm in Woodland Hills.
I didn't say anything because you live right down the street. I didn't say anything to you when you came out there with the black shirt. I knew it was going to be hot.
Just go jump in the pool. You got the floaty there.
I'm going to jump in the pool with my unicorn here. Let me tell you about the 49ers quarterback situation. They're in a great spot because early on in their schedule, they don't play power teams. So they don't want to give away Jimmy Garoppolo for nothing. But Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be amazing trade bait because, as you can see, we're not even into the season yet, and teams are losing their quarterbacks. Teams are questioning, like, oh, no, what's going on? Oh, right, Carson Wentz, like you're worrying about Dak. There's teams that are going to need a quarterback. And the 49ers are pretty much saying, yo, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start, and why not play him in the beginning of the season when you're playing a weak schedule? Don't rush Trey Lance in there because what's going to happen is someone's going to need a Garoppolo type. They'll be ready to go to Trey Lance, and then Garoppolo, they'll get something good for him. Keep that in mind. I think they're in a great situation. Not many teams have 2 guys that could start right now. I think the 49ers do. And I think they're the favorite in the West, and that's me being a homer, and that's me being realistic also. I think they're the team to beat.
Okay. Ross?
Let me just give a Trey Lance. People are saying, oh, I'm going to draft Trey Lance. First of all, he's not going to see the playing field. If he does the special plays maybe 2 or 3 times a game.
Well, might be a good late season thing, Ross. Yeah, like if you have him back end.
Let me just tell you what's going to happen if you take Trey Lance. You'll take Trey Lance. He'll be on your roster for the first 2 or 3 games. When somebody goes down, you'll do a waiver wire where you have to waive somebody on your team. Who's that going to be? It's not Kasey Shienvold. It's Trey Lance. Trey Lance is going to be waived. So if you want to take Trey Lance early, you're an idiot. If you want to take him as your last pick, it's a good move. It's not a bad move. I think this kid has a lot of potential. I think Garoppolo is going to get the starts, and unless the Niners falter, but they won't. They have a great team, like you said. I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl representing the NFC. I think they're that good.
Wow.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, Ross, because I was going to say people are like, as Ted Lasso says, be a goldfish. People got a memory of a goldfish. A year ago, the 49ers were the most injured team possibly in the last 20 years of the NFL.
We talked about this last season, Rich. I felt bad for you. They had the most injuries I've ever seen of any team. Their IR sheet was like 2 pages. It was unbelievable.
So we're coming back to a team that's a year and a half removed from the Super Bowl that was 10 minutes away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be back in a big way. I like what they got going on. And if you follow the 49ers on Instagram, which you probably don't, you just follow big butt cheeks like I do. But if you're on Instagram and you follow the 49ers, they are very open about showing the dimes that Trey Lance is throwing to
I've seen it. I've seen it on SportsCenter.
I mean, everyone from Debo to Ayuk, all these young wide receivers, not that they don't love Jimmy G, but they're very much showing that, I'm looking forward to catching passes from this young stud one day.
And they have those two running backs they drafted also, Mitchell, who I love. And they also have another running back, Sermon, who's getting a lot of. And
Mostert is healthy again, so it's a full backfield.
But remember, Mostert is the most injured running back in the league. So if you draft him, just beware.
I don't know. I think my Giants can make a claim that Barkley's way up there in terms of injuries. I'll let you have Mostert. All right, let's shift to your team, Ross. Tell me about the Bengals and Joe Burrow.
So Joe Burrow, he got hurt last year, horrible injury. He had surgery. He's excited to come back. They have I call this like a triple dragon head they have right now. They have Boyd, they have Higgins, and they have the rookie Chase, who they got out of LSU, who was Joe Burrow's teammate at LSU, and they were unbelievable together. Chase is probably the steal of the draft, even though they drafted in the first round. This kid is going to be great, all pro great. He's going to be unbelievable. They got Mixon. Mixon's going to be in that backfield by himself. Bernard left. I think he's with Atlanta now. He's no longer on the team. Their second string running back who came in for third down. Mixon's going to be in a lot of the games. So if you need a strong running back, Mixon's going to be great. The Bengals defense is where the question mark stands. And I'm worried about their defense too. They do give up a lot of points, but they're going to be fun to watch. It's going to be run and gun. They'll be passing 65% of the time. It's going to be a great team to watch, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, the good news about the bad defense means they're going to be trying to catch up in a lot of games. So exactly. For fantasy purposes, having a bad defense is good if you have the offensive players on that team.
And on the bettors aspect, we interviewed Norm Chad last week. It comes out tomorrow, actually. And Norm said his bet in the whole Vegas, if you went to Vegas and had to make one bet, it would be betting the Bengals over on the win total. I think it's either 6 or 7 wins. I'm not quite sure what it is, but he thinks the Bengals will win like 8 or 9 or 10 games. So that's Norm Chad's big bet. And Norm Chad's one of the biggest gamblers in the country right now, as we know from the World Series of Poker and everything. So if I was you, I'd go to Vegas, Rich, right now and bet on those Bengals.
Hey, by the way, am I the only one that feels like Bernard's been on the Bengals for 35 years until now? Like, get rid of that guy. Like, I feel like he's been like the quintessential, like, yo, he's still lingering. Good fresh start. I'm glad they got rid of him or let him go. I don't care. But I will say this. We underestimate a lot of times chemistry. Ross, you know that thing you and I have, our great friendship in chemistry?
Yes.
People underestimate that. I'll give you an example. My New York Mets. While they are struggling, Javi Baez and Lindor want to play together. Sometimes there's guys that have a bond or a kinship, right? And you saw that they played in the Dominican Republic team together. You've seen it in other sports where guys team up. Don't downplay the fact that Burrow is reunited with Chase, guys that rolled together in college. You don't think they want to deliver on the highest of levels together, knowing that they've done it before? I think those type of things, those intangibles in that chemistry, underestimated and underrated in all of sports and life. So I think, Ross, you're looking at a pretty solid season this year. I think your Bengals are going to be a surprise team.
All right. So everybody is preparing now. We're about to start the preseason in full swing for fantasy football. So everybody who's playing fantasy football is getting ready for their draft. So let's talk about the draft a little bit. If we're talking about your standard redraft head-to-head leagues, who are your top 5 players? Who are your top 5 picks? Ross, why don't you go first?
So number 1, Christian McCaffrey. Healthy, 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards rushing. This guy, I don't care how bad a quarterback they have, doesn't matter. But Sam Darnold's his quarterback. But he all he has to do is throw a little screen pass and the guy can run. So McCaffrey's 1. Number 2, that's a tough one. I'm taking Derrick Henry. You're saying, why are you taking Henry? 2,000 yards last year. He plays all 3 downs. He comes in for the touchdowns on short yardage. He doesn't catch that many passes. But you said standard, so I'm going with Henry. Number 3, Devin Cook of Minnesota. He's been hurt. He gets hurt, but when he's healthy, he's one of the best running backs out there. Number 4, you're gonna say, why are you picking this guy? Because he's on TV now because of Hard Knocks? Well, maybe, but I'm taking Zeke Elliott. As I mentioned, 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns this year. If Prescott stays healthy, which I think he will, he's a tough guy. You saw that on Hard Knocks. The guy's a tough SOB. I like Zeke Elliott. And number 5. I like Kamara. I'm worried about the quarterback situation there. If Hill starts, it's going to take a lot out of Kamara because Hill loves to run. So number 5, I'll go with a long shot. Not a long shot, but number 5, I'm going to say Davante Adams of Green Bay. 18 touchdowns in 14 games last year. I like what he does. He scores touchdowns. It doesn't matter if he's a running back or wide receiver. I don't care. But Davante Adams, I'll take him over Kamari. There you go.
You know, Ross, I'm not going to talk just to hear myself talk. You nailed all the top tier guys. You're hitting a home run, unlike Sunday softball. You're on point here. I want to ask you about quarterbacks though. Are there any quarterbacks that you feel should go early? Like does like Mahomes or someone stand out so much that they break your rule of don't go quarterback too soon?
I used to think like you did, like, oh, if I have a Mahomes, I have a big advantage. You really don't. And
I know, that's what I'm saying. Is there any quarterback that you feel?
There's not. Kasey can ask Kasey too, but I feel if you wait to the 4th or 5th round to take a top tier quarterback, I think getting a top tier guy is important. And there's about 4 of them, and we know who they are, and Kasey can tell you right now. But I think if you wait and you get these running backs that are in dire strait, you got to get 2 good running backs to win your league. And Kasey, what do you think?
I agree. I think, Patrick Mahomes is the best fantasy quarterback out there. I like Josh Allen a lot, only because in addition to throwing for touchdowns, he gets a lot of those goal line carries for the team. But, if you can get Dak Prescott, who we talked about, or Kyler Murray, or I don't know, Lamar Jackson 3 rounds later, why wouldn't you stack your team with running backs and wide receivers that are in those higher tiers? Because the fall off in running backs is so much larger than the fall off in quarterbacks.
And we talk about it. I mean, if you play fantasy football and you're looking the waiver wire for a running back and you need one because your guy's hurt, it's a desert out there. And you don't want to be stuck during the season. You want to make sure you have those 2 great running backs. And with quarterbacks, I mean, I would say there's like 12 good to great quarterbacks that you can draft that I would not be embarrassed to start every week.
The differential is not big enough to care. Now, one last question, because you guys are in the zone a little more than I am with the fantasy stuff. I'm more of the gambling guy. But when you talk,
we'll talk about that coming up. We have questions about gambling. Don't worry.
When you talk about fantasy and tight ends, foolish move or smart move that if a Kittle or a Kelce is available, and you feel like you made your first pick or so, are you snatching them up quick or what?
I mean, I'll answer first. Kelce is up here. Everybody else is kind of the tier below. So Kelce is a late first round, early second round pick. It just depends what running backs are available and who's available. Kelce gives you a huge advantage. I mean, he really does. He has 100 yards, a touchdown almost every game. The guy's money every week. Kittle, the problem with Kittle is he gets hurt. Waller's for the Raiders. He's my second favorite. He's my second favorite tight end right now, just because he plays every week. He has 1,000 yards receiving. He's unbelievable. Kittle's number 3. I mean, this Kyle Pitts, who plays for Orlando, is number 1 pick. Went to the University of Florida. He's unbelievable. But rookie tight ends tend in the past, they never do that well the first year.
Well,
ever.
I mean, Matt Ryan needs a new target now. So,
but do you remember he plays for the Tampa? Do you remember O.J. Howard? He played for Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He had all this press. Kasey and I remember him. He had all this press. He was unbelievable, and he came out and he had a mediocre first year. So, I'm worried about rookie tight ends. I don't really put much into their basket. But Kasey, what do you think?
I think if you can get Kelce in the 3rd round, you absolutely take him.
You're not going to get Kelce in the
If you can get him at the end of the 2nd round, you take him. But I'm not a big proponent of taking a tight end in the 1st round. I know Kelce is practically a wide receiver, but I still think there are 4 or 5 wide receivers I would rather have over him. But yeah, if you miss out on Kelce and Kittle and maybe Hawkinsmith, is it Hawkinsmith? I think Hawkins something. Then the drop off is so severe at that point, you might as well wait another 4 or 5 rounds to even consider a tight end.
Geno Smith. Take Geno Smith or
Jonnu Smith. You can get
Smith or Everett in Seattle, who I love.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll talk about that later. But
Ross, if Ross wants to show up and really be a baller and like really show the guys in his league like he's the boss and he's all business, I think Ross should take a kicker with pick 1 and just be like, I will still beat you
and
with
my first pick. Defense with pick 2.
And then a tight end. And then
Ross picks a defense or kicker with pick 1. And he's like, I'm that good.
That are good. If I was playing with like beginners, maybe I would have a shot doing that. But I mean, with fantasy football, in all seriousness, guys, there's so much luck involved with your players staying healthy
and health. Yeah.
And I mean, health is such a huge issue in football. I mean, it's a lot there's a luck involved with that, and you can have as much strategy as you want, but if your 1st or 2nd round pick goes down for a long time, you're in deep trouble.
Speaking of your first pick, Ross, is there anyone living life better than Christian McCaffrey right now with Olivia Culpo? Every time you see him on social media, the dude's like on vacation with like beautiful women. His friends are all like, everyone he hangs with, I think they have to be a 10. All the guys are ripped and all the women are like models.
I follow him too, and he's 25 years old. He's not you feel he's older, but he's not. He's 25. He gets paid a lot of money. His dad was an unbelievable wide receiver when he played for Denver. I mean, he's lived a charmed life, and he's an unbelievable player. I mean, he plays in a bad market, and he's great.
If you're a confident guy, your answer usually is like, "Nah, I wouldn't trade lives with anyone." I think for a few days I might trade lives with Christian McCaffrey.
I think you're right.
Just to get a taste, right?
I just hope he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy this year, he's worth the number one pick. I love Christian McCaffrey, and we call him what, CMC, right? That's his
right.
thing.
Yeah, and if he's not healthy, sponge baths with Olivia Culpo.
CMC,
so he's fine.
but
his recovery. He probably likes the recovery. So let's talk about a couple guys coming back from injuries. Michael Thomas, the stud wide receiver for New Orleans, he's out until at least week 4. They're saying maybe week 5. Yeah. Where does that put him on? Last year, I think he was the consensus 1 or 2 wide receiver. He and I think DeAndre Hopkins were fighting for that number 1 spot.
So let me ask you guys something. Tell me if you think I'm right. I don't know if this is the truth. This is what Shaq did. Okay, Shaq actually did this during one of his NBA playing years. So Michael Thomas knew about his injury in January. And they said, okay, you should get surgery. He waited till June because the Shaq theory is Shaq says, I don't want to rehab on my own time. I want to rehab on your time. So I feel he waited till June to get his surgery. So he didn't care about his team. He's not a team player, this guy. So he waited till June, get his surgery. He's not coming back till like the 6th or 7th week after the bye week. That's the truth. And now New Orleans, he made it known this week that he wants to be traded. He wants out of New Orleans. So New Orleans is going to trade this guy. I mean, even though he had 140 receptions 2 years ago, 140 something receptions. Yeah. It's unbelievable, Rich Davis. Unbelievable. But
he was chirping. The guy's been chirping on social media too. I think that, I don't know, man, it depends on your mindset, right? Like if you're in a league where there's a lot of teams that make the playoffs, and you're okay with like, oh, all right, weeks 1 through 4, if I go 2-2 or 1-3 and I can hang in there, then I'm okay taking some of these guys that will deliver later. It's like, do you want fast acting or long lasting? Like it's as the old Seinfeld bit goes.
It's almost like the LeBron James approach to the regular season.
Yeah, do you say to yourself like, all right, let me sneak in the playoffs, but if I wait, I could get Michael Thomas and I could get healthy players that aren't starting the season. Like, I don't know. I don't know the ideology there. Maybe that's something you could try if you've had no success in the past, right?
Yeah.
But how much do you trust him in fantasy drafts?
I would stay away from the guy in the draft. I mean, he's not a team player. I don't want any non-team players.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying if you take at the bottom of your draft, if you could get a Trey Lance and a Michael Thomas and some of these guys later on, like when you're done, like that might be one of those times where the picks that didn't matter in week like 12.
If your league has an IR, which a lot of leagues do, they have an IR section. We can put a player on IR, and it doesn't take away from your regular spots. If your league has that, it's not a bad idea, and you could be right on that. But if your team doesn't have it, and you have limited space on your bench, I would not take them. But that's me.
Okay. What about Saquon? Obviously, he missed most of last year. They just took him off the PUP list.
On the PUP list. Yeah.
But now they're like, he's practicing one day, then sitting out 3, then practicing one day and sitting out 3. Rich, if you want to go jump in the pool for a few minutes and cool off and come back, I'm sure Ross has a rant long enough.
No, I figure what I'm doing the equivalent of when a boxer wraps himself in cellophane.
Yeah, to lose some weight. You're going to make weight.
I had a cheeseburger for lunch, so this is good. I'll shed a few pounds. Instead of Peloton, I decided to hang with you guys today.
And you'll get some color too. You'll be nice and tan.
Yeah, you're right.
Nice. With Saquon this year, I think he's a top 10 pick in fantasy football. So don't think like he's not going to be playing. He'll be playing. He's questionable for week 1. The coach said. I think he'll be in there. I mean, that guy has he's a young guy. I think Kasey 23 years old.
I think he's 24. Yeah.
24. I mean, you feel like he's like 28, 29. He's not. He's like 23, 24. But
to be 24 again, huh? To be 24 again.
I think if Barkley's healthy, Kasey, you're a Giants fan.
I am.
I think he'll have a great year. I think he'll have 1,300 yards rushing. He loves getting the ball out of the backfield as a receiver. I think it's worth it. I hate taking players who are coming off a huge injury. It destroys me in the first or second round. But Rich, what do you think about this whole Saquon Barkley?
I'll tell you what I think. I think that if you live in Jersey and you're a Giants fan, you have to start every Sunday morning with a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwich, which is one of the things I miss most about living on the West Coast. Some Jersey, some New York food. But you know what? The NFC East is going to be interesting. I think it's like sort of like the National League East, where no one's that great. Ross, it's like, remember when you would go to the bar, if there were no other good-looking guys there, your competition's like nothing, but you don't want to go to the bar. You don't want to go to the bar and every other guy in the bar be like some handsome stud. The East is so bad. It's like the Mets in baseball have to finish over 500 and they might win the division. Sometimes you benefit from being surrounded by crap. And the Giants are surrounded by crap. So there's more incentive for Saquon, for them to, do the right thing with Saquon, because it's not one of those, let's just have him play. He's our star player. People want to see him. The Giants can compete because that division is doo-doo. So I think Saquon will play. I think they're nursing him the right way right now for a reason, because the East, I don't know how to describe it. The East every year. Do you agree that the East every year is like an unknown? Like you could predict every other division.
It's a very competitive decision. I think the team of Washington is going to be really good. Their defense is really good. I feel that Daniel Jones was really hurt last year. He didn't tell anybody about it. He should have been in the IR. Any other quarterback would have been on the IR. Daniel Jones did not go on the IR. He played. I think he'll be a big surprise in fantasy this year. I feel he's going to be at least maybe a top 15 quarterback this year, maybe even top 10 if he's healthy. But he's back. Wow. Daniel Jones is back.
That's bold.
The boss. He'll be back. Barkley's back. The Giants are going to be back. They'll be competing for that division title. We'll see.
I think there's no other division. I mean, you're a Giants fan. You tell us. Do you agree that every year it's like, I don't know, even the experts are just guessing. That division, I feel like consistently our whole life, it's like some divisions and some teams can't escape their name or their division. Like every year it's like, all right, who's going to be 9-7? Like someone will be 9-7 and win this year, 10-7.
Yeah. Look, I hate the draft every year as a Giants fan, at least the last 3 or 4 years, because it feels like, like this year they had the 11th pick, I believe, to start. We were all hoping Devonta Smith would be available to them. He got taken. Like the Eagles traded up at 10 of all teams. The freaking Eagles traded up to take Devonta Smith. So then they decide to trade back when Justin Fields is sitting there, and the Bears come up and take the draft pick for them and get Justin Fields, who I think is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones already. Then Micah Parsons, who's the all-world linebacker, who I wish the Giants had stayed and taken at that point if they weren't going to take Justin Fields. Then all of a sudden, like Dallas trades up and gets Micah Parsons. So the two players I wanted more than anything on my team went to the two rivals within the division. So the year before that, it was Andrew Thomas at number 4. The year before that, they had 2 first-round picks, and with their top one, they took Daniel Jones when they could have easily gotten him at 14 because nobody else was going to take him. So I'm not a huge Dave Gettleman guy. I hope I'm proven wrong, but it's frustrating. And so you start every season going, crap, is 8-8 good enough? Because that's the best. The only thing you have going for you is you get to play the Eagles twice, you get to play the Washington Redskins twice, and you get to play the Cowboys twice, who never in the last 26 years haven't proven an ability to close out a season. So it's not a fun time to be a Giants fan these days. We won the Super Bowl those 2 times with Eli Manning when we shouldn't have even made the playoffs, but he gets hot at the right time. He had like 2 really good 6-game stretches, and suddenly he's considered a Hall of Famer. So
your team reminds me of the Marlins in baseball. You got 2 championships randomly when no one really expected. And then the Giants were never they were never a dynasty. They just had, 2 good runs. And I got to ask you as a Giants fan, I haven't talked to many of my East Coast Giant fans about this season yet, but I mean, no one liked Coughlin until, of course, he won. Then it was like, oh yeah, he's disciplined. Like, it's like people hate things until it produces. How do you feel about Rule? Do you like the new system? Because last year everyone's like, oh, we like this guy, and then nothing really happens with it. I'm sorry, Joe Judge. Why did I say Rule? Rule's Carolina. The other. I'm sorry. Yeah. Joe Judge. Yeah.
I do like him because he is no nonsense. He's kind of cut out of that Belichick mold, and look how good Belichick's been. So we're hoping like some of that rubbed off on him. I liked him a lot better than the Packers offensive coordinator who they had the time before, who looked like a 70s porn star with his hair slicked back and a mustache. But I don't know. I'm not a Gettleman fan. Sometimes, look, I'm old enough to be a Bill Parcells guy. I remember the 80s fondly with Bill Parcells in the early 90s, Phil Simms, Jeff Hostetler, Joe Morris, Mark Bavaro, all those years.
Ross has Phil McConkey hair.
He does have a little bit of Phil McConkey hair, who caught one of the greatest touchdowns ever off Mark Bavaro's helmet. But
yes.
And so I believe in Bill Parcells' statement when he left the Cowboys, or when he left, maybe it was the Patriots, where he said, if you're going to make me cook, I should at least have some say in the groceries, or it helped me pick the groceries. So
yeah,
this is Daniel Jones's make or break year. He's got to prove it this year. They did everything they can to put weapons around him. If he doesn't do it, he's going to be gone next year. And their fourth top 5 pick in a row is going to have to be a quarterback this year.
I have faith in Jones this year. I think he'll surprise a lot of people. And you see how fast he is. He showed his speed off on Monday Night Football last year, how fast he really is. And I feel that he got a couple new weapons. I think they're going to be good. And I think the Giants are going to at least win.
Hey, I'm hoping Ross is right on that one. Let's talk about, to get back to fantasy football real quick, let's talk about a couple sleepers you guys have. There's some guys, wide receivers, who closed the season last year really well. Marquez Callaway from New Orleans comes to mind. Mecole Hardman in Kansas City has been listed as their number 2. Those are some big names. What are some other big name sleepers you're thinking of?
Ross, can I throw one out there? Because
go ahead.
I mean, obviously, I focus very much on my division and my team. But listen, with a change of quarterback at some point, and you know that Trey Lance is going to throw the ball more than Garoppolo, and I know you love Ayuk because he's from your college.
Yep.
What about a Brandon Ayuk or maybe a Deebo Samuel a little earlier than you thought they should go? Like, the 49ers have some great receivers. They're young and they haven't really had such a, Garoppolo's not throwing for 400 yards, so they weren't showcased. Maybe if they're showcased, one of those guys is a 1,500 yard a year guy.
We'll see what happens. I mean, Ayuk has the breakaway speed. I feel you're in the right track with Ayuk. I think he's a deep threat for the Niners. I mean, he showed off his speed last year. I think he'll just get better this year. I mean, you mentioned Callaway from New Orleans. I mean, Michael Thomas is gone. Callaway had some great games to end the year, and I feel Callaway is going to be forgotten in the draft. And if you need a good receiver, like a receiver 2, Callaway could be a great steal in your draft. Mike Davis of the Atlanta Falcons, he's a starting running back there in Atlanta. He's going to have a great season. Wherever he goes, he does well. He was last year. He was in Carolina. He had a great season. This year he's in Atlanta, and Atlanta's offensive line is pretty good. They're not bad. They're not as bad. I mean, Pittsburgh. People are talking about the Pittsburgh running back Harris, the rookie guy that went to Alabama. And the problem with Pittsburgh is the Harris is great, but the offensive line, they lost 3 starters last year. They're gone because of free agency. They lost Phil. They lost their starting center. They lost their starting guard and starting tackle. They're all gone. And their offensive line last year wasn't good. This year, they're going to be worse. And I have them projected as the second worst offensive line. The worst is Jacksonville. That's my prediction. But long story short, I love Mike Davis for Atlanta. I think people are undervaluing him right now, and I would take him in the 3rd or 4th round because running backs are scarce in fantasy football.
I have a question for you guys, if you don't mind. I'm curious what you think, Ross, being that you're a big LA guy. I mean, out here in LA, I don't know if you realize Ross the boss is like, people see him, they're like, there's the boss, Ross, LA quarterbacks, Stafford as a Ram or Herbert? Who's the quarterback that runs LA?
That's a great question. So Herbert's sophomore year had a great rookie year. Unbelievable. Sophomore year, I always think there's a downfall in the sophomore year. I don't know why. I just feel when quarterbacks come back as a sophomore, they don't play as well. That's just Ross the boss talking. I could be wrong. Stafford in LA in that setting and with the team they have an unbelievable offensive line. They'll protect Stafford. In Detroit, he did not get protected. He was getting destroyed back there. He's getting killed. I know the starting running back, Cam Akers, is out for the year. They have Henderson's going to be the starting running back. I feel they'll probably sign one of these guys like maybe Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley can be signing.
Gurley can come back. That'll be a nice.
I mean, he's in great shape. He shows his workouts off on his Instagram. I mean, he'll be a perfect sign for the Rams. He had his best years as a Ram. So I feel Stafford is going to have a better year than Herbert. That's just me talking. I just feel that. I just feel he just has a better team, and their defense in LA. Ooh, the Rams have a great defense.
Yeah, and he's got Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods on the outside. He's got Tyler Higbee as his tight end. So he's got a lot of weapons there that he's never had when he was in Detroit, and he still threw for 5,000 yards. So, yeah, I think Stafford's going to have the better year, but he's the old head. So, I mean, Justin Herbert might be the face of LA just because he's the new young guy. So, but either way, I don't either of them as my number 2 quarterback in fantasy football. That's for sure. I might not take him as my number 1 but you could do a lot worse than them as your number one.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Do you guys know that Kershaw and Stafford both on the same Little League team in Texas? Did you guys know that?
No, that's pretty cool.
I always find stuff like that remarkable. Like a lot of times you'll find like certain comedians like we're like, oh, we were roommates. It's like, and they're both like A-listers. Like I went to school with no one of importance. I feel like that might be my downfall. I don't know anyone important.
I mean, Judd Apatow and Adam Sandler were roommates.
Yeah,
and they had no money to their name. You know, that's true. And now
that's
they're
insane.
Their game. It's
All right, let's talk betting. You guys, I know you guys have butted heads in the past about picking games and picking players, and the both of you have been known to be a bit of a gambling aficionado. I looked at the top 5 favorites this morning to see who's going to win the Super Bowl, and Kansas City is plus 500 at number 1. Tampa Bay is number 2 at plus 625. Then it drops all the way down to Green Bay at plus 1,200. And then San Francisco and Buffalo are tied at plus 1,300. So there's a huge drop off from the first 2 teams. Do you guys really think Tampa Bay is that much better than San Francisco and Green Bay?
Rich, go ahead.
I mean, Ross, you saw Tom Brady as the old, there were memes and everything made about, look, Tom Brady just first year in the NFC, he won as many Super Bowls as Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, we can't downplay the fact that Tom Brady really did step it up with that team when it mattered.
See, I like to reframe it, Rich. I like to reframe that as it took him 20 years to finally win an NFC championship game.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think I love Tom Brady. I can't hate on him. I can't hate greatness just for the hell of it. But to say they're going to do it again is unrealistic. I don't like the Tampa bet. I don't even like the Kansas City bet, to be honest. Of course, I'm always going to pick my Niners, so I'll leave them out of it. I love the Buffalo plus 1,300. If you're going to pick one of those top-tier teams, I think Buffalo – because who would Buffalo need to get past besides Kansas City in your mind that is a premier AFC team? Like, I think Buffalo, if they're a home team in the playoffs, who's going to beat Buffalo other than Kansas City? The Ravens?
I do. I like – now let's go – Kansas City, I think, is beatable. It's 6-1, let's say. That's the odds. I feel that – I think the AFC is tough. I mean, there's Baltimore, there's Buffalo, there's Kansas. Yeah. I mean,
Cleveland was in the AFC Championship last year.
I mean, the AFC is a tough division.
Yeah.
And I even like Miami a little bit. I think Miami's going to be improving a lot this year with that defense. They're going to be good. And they got some weapons. They got Waddle from Alabama. They're going to be a
That's a lot of pressure on Tua.
I think Tua spent the whole offseason moving that offense.
They've said his maturity, Ross, they said this year he came out like how you were saying sometimes a rookie comes back soft their second year. They're saying Tua is the opposite. Like he struggled, and now they're saying he's got it under control. Like you're going to see a different Tua this year. So
and I also the team. If I had to bet right now in the Super Bowl, I was in Vegas and I had $1,000 in my pocket. I would put it on Baltimore to win the Super Bowl. It's like 13-1, right? Case it's 13.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
So I think Baltimore with Lamar Jackson.
I think it's more than that. I think it's
15 he's not 16. Getting vaccinated after he got COVID twice, which is the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. I mean, this guy has COVID twice, and he's risking his players. And the rule in the NFL right now with the COVID, if you don't get the vaccination and your team can't play because of you, let's say. Your whole team doesn't get a paycheck that week because of your dumb ignorance. It's stupidity. Just get the shot. If you go to your doctor, you know what your doctor's going to say to you? Get the shot, moron. Get the shot.
You should call Cole Beasley, Ross, and let him know how you feel.
Mark Cuban actually told Beasley that he would pay him money to his favorite charity if he got the shot.
He also offered his wife shares of stock in Moderna or Pfizer if they got the shot.
I saw that too.
Shot.
I mean,
can you have given me Moderna shares like a year ago before it went up 300-400%?
And remember, guys,
January 19.
And players are going to have wristbands. The wristbands, like I'm wearing a wristband right here. If your wristband's going to be a certain color, if it's the color that says you have the shot, and the color might say you don't have the shot. So during the game, you know what players have the shot and which don't, which I never heard before because. I thought maybe there's like a privacy thing when it comes to medical stuff. I guess
Scarlet Letter, Ross. It's like the Scarlet Letter.
I'm not disagreeing. It's unbelievable.
Nathaniel Hawthorne. Wow, going back to
number 48,
high school English.
But he's got the vid. Number 48.
So to go back to gambling, another thing that Rich and I I started doing this a few years ago. I watch these preseason games and I see what coaches playing their starters, because certain coaches won't play their starters. Like Aaron Rodgers is not playing in the preseason, period. Jordan Love would be playing, and Aaron Rodgers isn't even getting dressed up for the games, which proves to me like, now, do you think, I'm just throwing this out there, Jordan Love did not get dressed for one game last year, okay? He did not get dressed for one game. Do you think Aaron Rodgers said if Jordan Love gets dressed, I'm not going to play? Do you think that was out? Do you think that was?
I don't know. You saw the press coverage. Jordan Love pretty much was like, yo, I just want to make it clear. I'm sorry, the Aaron Rodgers press conference. You pretty much saw him say, hey, attention world, the Packers are my bitch. And the Packers just have to be like, yep, we are. He's in control. And I think, maybe that's an argument to say, all right, it's they're trying to frame it as like Aaron Rodgers' last dance. Listen, Russ, if you have $1,000 and you're going to Vegas, I'd say spread out that $100 a few, that $1,000 a few different ways. Maybe 100 on the Niners, 100 on Buffalo, 100 on the Packers, and maybe 100 on the Ravens. And stay away from the favorites because it's not going to pay out enough. That might be
all right, Rich. Who's your dark horse then? Outside of those top 5 or 6 teams, who would you put your money on?
I liked Russ's thought of Miami surprising people, but trying to think of teams that, like, for all we know, Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia could
Arizona,
someone out of that
Arizona.
I mean, the West to me is competitive, so I think multiple teams can make it out of the West. Maybe, you know what? I got one. People are going to downplay the Saints because they lost Drew Brees. Jameis Winston might be like primed for his opportunity right now. Like, I know you're saying that he might not even start all the games roster. We don't even know the story there, but Jameis Winston, he's still a young man. We write off people way too soon. He is a young man that could absolutely be like, yo, this is a Jameis Winston, not under Bruce Arians in Tampa. This is a different guy. So for all you know, the Saints could be just as good as they were before.
You can't discount Sean Payton either.
Yeah, but they're minus Michael Thomas, who's their number one receiver. Well, Winston did lead the league in interceptions when he did play the whole season. It wasn't pretty.
But he aired it out. He aired it out. Like, Bruce Arians had him air it out. He also threw for 40 touchdowns. The guy just threw the ball.
I know. We'll see. I mean, I think Arizona having J.J. Watt now. I know J.J. hurt his hamstring, and he'll be ready for the regular season. He'll be.
Oh, you know what?
I think you guys are.
I like Kyle Murray. I like they got A.J. Green now. I mean.
Who are we forgetting, by the way? Yeah.
I think you're discounting your LA Rams, like right out there in LA with their defense and Matt Stafford throwing to all those weapons. If Darrell Henderson can stay healthy and be productive, that's a pretty scary team because of that offensive line and defensive line. Like, if anything's been proven in the playoffs, like the reason the Bucs were able to beat the Chiefs last year was because they were missing both their offensive tackles, and the Bucs could just tee up on Patrick Mahomes. The best offense in football couldn't function without their offensive tackles.
Do you guys have any thoughts or predictions as whether or not this is like make or break for Gruden? Vegas, they got their stadium opening. Everyone's excited. Like, is this like dude, we've given you a couple years to like trust the process and see what you could do. Like, is it a failed experiment if nothing happens this year, like 3 years in?
Well, I really thought that Aaron Rodgers was going to go to Vegas this year. I really thought if he was traded – I thought Vegas was the logical choice for him, especially with no state tax. So
Vegas or Denver? I thought he was.
Yeah, I thought Denver.
All the money he makes in Nevada is all tax free for the state. So he'll save like a lot of money that way. And I feel that Vegas. I feel they have a good running game. They have good receivers. Their defense is pretty good. Their offensive line is outstanding. I feel that the Raiders were the logical choice, but I think you're right. I think if Gruden comes out the gate slow, I think he could be on the chopping block. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that stadium, I wanted to go. I had tickets last year. I couldn't go because no fans, but I want to check out. They have a jail. They have a courthouse inside the stadium. They have like the stadium supposed to be unbelievable. I have not been yet, but I do want to go. I'm excited to go to
this year. Ross, we'll go to a game. We'll bet on the game. If we win, after party at Spearmint Rhino. You in?
I'm in. Count me in. That sounds like fun.
All right. All right, guys. We just have a couple minutes left. So we just got a couple minutes left. So the preseason goes into full steam this week. Why don't you tell the viewers how they should be looking at the preseason to better prepare them for fantasy football and fantasy football drafts? What are the things you look for when you're watching the preseason games?
Well, so basically, there's some running back controversies. Like there's Gordon versus the rookie Williams in Denver. People love Williams, and Melvin Gordon is the veteran. So you got to see how the rookies pan out, and if they can actually steal the job away from the veterans. So that's what you got to look at some of these. I mean, a lot of your star players that you're drafting aren't going to be playing, not because they're not good enough, because they don't want any of these guys to get hurt. But there will be guys playing, fighting for jobs, and you should be watching that. And you should, again, I didn't finish what I was saying, but with betting, you should pay attention of what coaches are playing their starters. Like they already announced, like Cam Newton's going to get a few snaps, and then Jones, the rookie sensation from Alabama, is going to get a few snaps. That's a quarterback controversy. That, if Newton doesn't play that well, there's a good chance that Jones could start. So you just got to be aware of like what situations. Minshew and Lawrence is the same thing in Jacksonville. They said the same. The coach said that Minshew is.
I'm sure he said it. But do you think Urban Meyer's really going to plant his flag on Gardner Minshew in the first season as coach?
I love Gardner Minshew. That goatee, the whole mustache.
You like the mustache. You don't like the quarterback.
Like her persona A+, performance like C-.
Right.
Let's be honest. Like he's like a fajita, all sizzle, no substance. So look at it this way. When you watch preseason games, you're not going to get the stars, right? But there's two things. Russ touched on one of them. Anytime there's teams that have you're right, there are teams that are people battling for a position or backup positions. Like, so when it comes to running backs that are deeper, you take a look at that and new coaches and new systems and teams that struggle. Let's see how they balance it. Like there might be a new coach where you're like, oh, he's more pass heavy than I thought. He's more run heavy than I thought. Like, oh, this defense, like, I think it's a good way to gauge new coaches and people battling for backup spots. Like there's not much to really learn, but there's a few things you could take away.
All right, guys. Well, obviously we could talk about football for hours, but I think Rich is starting to sweat through his shirt a little too much. So I want to let him go take a shower. So we're going to wrap up here, guys. Thanks for all this great information. It was tremendous. And to everybody out there, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, click like if you like what you heard, leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys, and come back next week. Same time, same place. We'll have some more fantasy football talk for everybody. It's been a pleasure bringing this to you, and I wish you all the best of luck in your drafts.
Oh, yeah. From Kill Cliff, the #1 clean energy drink in the mind of Joe Rogan, comes the Flamin' Joe. Sugar-free, B vitamins, electrolytes, all them good drink things. An epic spicy pineapple fusion from out of this world, straight into your drink hole. Own it. KillCliff.com.